Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. Today we're looking at some cool cards that are trending because of some stuff that we're going to be getting here in the TCG in the future. Now, I know that we just had our Age of Overlord sneak peek last weekend, but this is the weekend that the set is officially released, so I do want to wait until the weekend is over before we talk about some of those cards. But for now, we're going to talk about some cards that are getting some really early hype and discussing whether these are cards you should be holding on to or digging them up so that you can dump them as soon as possible. Let's get started. Alright, first up we have Lifeless Leaf Fish. I know, probably one of the most random cards we could have started with today. This is a level 4 fish monster that on summon sends a fish from your deck to the graveyard, and then you can also banish this card from your graveyard to shuffle 3 fish from your graveyard back into the deck as well as draw a card. So overall, 2 really useful effects for any fish-based strategy. The problem is that we don't really have any good fish archetypes in the game. The closest thing that we've gotten to is with Goaty, and it just so happens that Goaty are getting new support in Unending Nightmare, which was just revealed over in the OCG. Now, to be honest, I do think the level 6 is actually pretty good. The other 2 cards, I think there's one Goaty card and then like a generic fish synchro. They're good, not amazing. Overall, probably not going to push the deck to be like too competitive. But yeah, Goaty are probably the best fish archetype in the game still. Lifeless Leaf Fish is a pretty useful generic fish card that can be splashed into that deck. And with that, the original Ultras from Rise of the Duelist have seen a bit of a bump up in price. They've gone from around $2 or $3 to now being $7 per copy. Fortunately, there is also a common printing available for under $1 each, but if you want to play the deck in highest rarity, you're going to have to pay $7 per copy for this card. The card is cute, it's just that it's for a really specific, not that great strategy, right? It'll probably fall back down to being a few dollars within a couple of weeks, assuming that Goaty don't suddenly become a top tier deck out of nowhere. The next card we have is Supreme King Dragon Darkworm. So believe it or not, pendulums are actually a very viable strategy in the OCG. In Age of Overlord, there are a couple of new toys that pendulums got with the Supreme King cards, and they've actually helped the deck to become competitive once again. In fact, Darkworm was actually limited to 1 in the OCG, but on the latest ban list it was moved to 2. Now here in the TCG it is obviously really different. Our lists are different, so you can never really say that just because a deck is good in one place that it will automatically become good in the other. However, I think it's still worth noting that Darkworm was limited over in the OCG, but has never been touched here in the TCG and currently remains at 3. With the differences between the 2 formats, only time is going to tell us if the new Darkworm cards and Exceed the Pendulum will be enough to give pendulums a chance to be competitive once again in the post-Electromite era. Now price-wise, I think that players immediately turned to Darkworm here once people got wind that pendulums might be good again, with the card's only holo printing coming as the secret rare version from Relentless Revenge, which was the second ever Battles of Legend set. These were at $5 each, but they've basically doubled in price the last couple of weeks and now sit just under $10 per copy. The card is definitely on Konami's radar though, as the card just recently got a reprint in OTS Tournament Pack 23 as a common, so the card will definitely still be accessible. But for you older Pendulum players, this might still be laying around with the rest of your Pendulum cards, as it's a card that has been used pretty consistently by various Pendulum strategies over the years. Now, an interesting tech card that has come up is Unending Nightmare. This is a card that came out back in Maximum Crisis that a lot of players were thinking would be the next big thing, but never really actually took off. It's a continuous trap card that lets you once per turn pay 1000 life points to destroy a face-up spell or trap card on the field. Really simple effect, but I think that the format has to be just right for this card to really be useful. For instance, it could have been good against something like Kashtira, where you could hit Rate, Soth, and Birth, but it just wasn't useful against enough different matchups, like against Unchained or Dragon Link it was pretty dead. The other thing is that this card does have its drawbacks. You can only activate the effect once per turn, making this card really slow, and you have to pay 1000 life points each time you pop with it, making it a liability in time. However, over in the OCG, the card is currently seeing some side deck play. Their time rules are different than ours, but the card is useful against several top tier decks as well, including Pendulums, Pearly, and the new Centurion archetype. Now here in the TCG, this card isn't seeing play quite yet, but it is on some people's radar, with the original Secret Rares actually seeing sales anywhere between the $5 to $10 range. There are still several other more affordable printings, like the Ultra from Battles of Legend that is still right around $1 each, but if you want to max rarity your deck, it might still not be too bad to look at picking up some secrets for around $5 each. It feels like this is the type of card that should eventually see some play someday, so grab a set for yourself to own in whatever rarity you feel comfortable picking up. Alright, so this one I feel like is a card we probably could have paid more attention to on its release. It's something that feels too recent though to really go up much more in terms of price. It is the Zombie Vampire. So with the release of the Horus cards in Age of Overlord, I feel like Zombie Vampire is a really strong extra deck option. It gives you a free body on the field most of the time, and it also mills for both players, something that I feel like any deck using Horus cards is probably going to be okay with. Now that being said, Zombie Vampire hasn't really been used in that many decks. I think that the one thing that really used it was Adventurer Tenyi, where you would use Chaos Ruler and Foxy Tune to make Zombie Vampire, try to mill a tuner, and then you could make Halki Fibrax from there. The card literally just got a Megatin reprint this year, and at first it was like a 50-cent card or something. For now, the tin version is just around $1 each, and even though that price increase is small, I think it's still worth paying attention to, especially if you can still find someone selling bulk copies of this card for well under $1. The original secret rare copies from Battle of Chaos are up to around $4 per copy, and to me, since they look basically the same as the tin reprints, I would probably offload those if you can actually find someone who really cares about like the set code and that extra bit of prismatic secret rare foiling. One more random one here, it's actually TG Gear Zombie. So if you guys were at your sneak peeks or you've already opened some boxes of Age of Overlord, you probably know how disappointing it is to crack it open and see that one or both of your secrets are TG Rocket Salamander or TG Limiter Removal. However, despite how many people really don't want the cards, it turns out TG is actually a pretty interesting deck. The new cards that they got in Age of Overlord are actually really good, and if you don't know how to play against it, there's a good chance that they're just going to kill you and not really give you a chance to play. Now historically, a lot of TG cards are in pretty low rarities, so there isn't too much that has spiked because of the new support. The notable piece here is Gear Zombie, which we're going to talk about. This card is a level 1 tuner that you can special summon from your hand for free by lowering the attack points of one of your TG monsters on the field by 1,000. As far as extenders go, this is a really solid card. It's a level 1, so you can use it to make the new level 2 Striker Synchro. The only unfortunate thing is that this card only has one printing as a secret rare from Battles of Legend Heroes Revenge. I remember pulling this card so many times and being so upset. It was just the worst pull because there were so many good secrets in the set that this could have been instead. However, the card has now gone from being like 10 cents to being worth around $2 to $3, making this still something that is worth setting aside from your holo bulk. However, I expect that players looking for this card will be far and few between, so if you can move this card for basically any value, or hopefully get like a couple of solid trades out of it, I would definitely try to liquidate these as soon as possible. On to the last couple of things here. The first one is GenX Controller. So in the OCG, we're getting a pretty cool set called Terminal World, which is basically going to provide some cool support for some of the old dual terminal archetypes. We've already seen the cards for Ice Barrier and Infernoids. This time around, we got the new GenX cards, which actually look pretty amazing. Specifically, I think it's the Link 1 that's really broken. It always seems to be the Link 1 monster that breaks a lot of these different archetypes, by the way. If you check some of the replays online, you can see them make some really crazy boards with this card. Now, I don't think it's enough to be meta. Really, you're just making the Link 1 and then summoning a bunch of times, so you really need to count on not getting hit by Imperm or Veiler or anything like that, and also not drawing like too many of the brick cards. But I mean, like, to be fair, I don't think anyone was really expecting GenX to ever really be good in the first place. It's kind of weird to think that GenX Controller is one of the good ones, but this is a level 3 vanilla tuner that is actually solid. You search it with GenX Undyne, and this is actually the way that you ran Controller back in Mermail format early on. The card has mostly just common printings, however its one holo printing is the DT version, which is going to cost you about $15. If you guys have watched this channel for a while, you know I'm not really a huge fan of like maxing out the rarity of those one of brick vanillas in your deck. If it was a really nice engine card or a 3 of, then yeah, but spending like $15 to $20 for a vanilla brick that you don't really want to see all that often, that'll probably only be worth a couple of bucks in just a few months, just doesn't seem worth it to me. That being said, just like with Gear Zombie, you're probably not going to find too many players that are that keen on picking up GenX controllers in their highest rarity printing, so if someone does ask for it, maybe just take a bit of a lower price on it just so that you can actually move the card and get some value out of it. And finally, the last card for today is Ritual Beast Ulti Gaiapelio. I know it's been years since I've really even thought about this archetype. I guess it was bound to get support eventually. Now, we don't actually know that Ritual Beasts are getting support, but what I think players are assuming is that they've seen the pack art for the set, and based on that, they're thinking that Ritual Beasts are the 4th archetype that will get support, because it looks like it could fit in with the theme. Now, to be honest, I still don't know what Ritual Beasts do. I remember they had some sort of really long combo that I never bothered to learn. What I do remember is that they have like Tamers, the Beasts, and then the Fusions. They were just so overshadowed by Necros in the Secret Forces, most players didn't really care about them all that much. However, due to just the speculation that the new support will be similarly strong to the support for the other archetypes, players are looking for something to buy out, and Ulti Gaiapelio, as one of the few pieces with extremely limited availability, was the target. I guess this card is the boss monster for the deck. It does provide an Omni Negate by banishing a Ritual Beast card from your hand, but that's literally it. Honestly, it is going to take a lot of really strong support from Terminal World to make the archetype good or playable, and if it does do that, this card probably won't see play unless you have a way to cheat it out of your deck for free. Now for now, the Ultras are up at $8, they were at like $3 to $4 before, while the Ultimate Rares are a whopping $25. This card will definitely cool off in price in the long term, but to be fair, I could see some people freaking out and trying to buy them again if the new support is actually really good. Just be ready to offload these within the next month or so, since it just seems incredibly unlikely that Ritual Beasts will be good in the year 2023. Alright guys, that is it for today. I'm taking a look back at the cards we talked about, and I'm just thinking like that was a really weird cluster of cards to talk about. But we will be back to some more regular things that you would expect to see next week when we review where the prices of cards from like Age of Overlord are finally going. If you guys did enjoy today's Market Watch, please make sure that you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. Also, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And until next time, guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.